Hello and welcome to this webinar, which provides an alumni perspective on 7 reasons why IIM Kozhikode is special. Let me give you a brief introduction to IIMK. IIM Kozhikode is the 5th IIM and one of the 6 first-generation IIMs. It was set up in 1996 in Calicut, also known as Kozhikode, in Kerala. Next year, in 2021, when it celebrates its 25th anniversary, it will have 10,000 alumni around the world. This webinar shares an alumni perspective on what makes IIMK special. These are areas where IIMK is a leader or a top 5 campus in India in the perspective of its alumni. My name is Ronald Phillip. I am from the IIMK class of 2005. Over the last 15 years, I've worked in 5 jobs across India, New York, and Dubai. The longest was 6 years in consulting with McKinsey & Company in the US and Dubai. I will be joined today by 5 alumni who I will introduce one by one during the call. What we all share in common is that IIM Kozhikode has changed our lives, and we are very proud alumni. And we will share some of that in great detail today. The webinar is broken up into segments, and after today's live recording, you will be able to click on specific segments you want to watch in the description below this video. We will cover each of the 7 reasons why we think IIM Kozhikode is special, followed by a Q&A. You can send any questions you have during the live webinar to imkanproject@gmail.com. That's IIMKAN project@gmail.com. The email address is also in the description of this video below the screen. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel so that you get regular content updates from us. So let's get started. The first reason that we'd like to get into is IIM Kozhikode is legendary for its incredible campus and all-round student experience. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for anybody is IIMK's spectacular campus and infrastructure, but there's much more to that. There's an incredible student experience which allows for real leadership and personal transformation experiences. There's a very strong culture of excellence in B-school competitions and incredibly deep peer-to-peer networking. On the campus, I mean, this is a legendary hilltop campus that people call a resort. It's often called God's own campus. It was designed by the legendary architect Joseph Stein, who has designed some of the legendary buildings in Delhi, including the India Habitat Center and the India International Center. He designed it along with Meena Mani and Anurag Chawla, with state-of-the-art classroom infrastructure. We have a great library, which the Indian Business Museum, and we have hostels with spectacular views of the valley and sea. The campus is 45 minutes from Calicut International Airport, which has daily flights from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, and other destinations. Let me get into student experience. As alumni, we all look back and cherish the leadership and personal transformation experiences that we had. IIM Kozhikode is known as a student-run campus, and there's a very rich campus life with multiple leadership opportunities and extracurricular life with student committees, interest groups, clubs, management and cultural summits, India's biggest student-run marathon, Calicut Marathon, the student startup Booklagi, and the very famous inter-IIM sports meet Sangram, which is fiercely contested between the 4 IIMs of South India. So let me introduce our first alumni panelist, Smriti Ravichandran from the class of 2010. Hi, Smriti. Can you hear me clearly?
Hey, Ron, I can hear you clearly.
Excellent. Welcome, and thank you for joining this panel. Let me introduce you. So for our audience, Smriti was on the Student Council during her 2 years at IIM Kozhikode. The Student Council looks after all student activity on campus. At the end of her 2 years, she was awarded the gold medal for best all-round performance. She went on to a very fast-paced career, first at ITC from campus, and then Flipkart, where she has grown to become one of the youngest vice presidents in this e-commerce giant. She was synonymous with Big Billion Days and has now taken on a new role as the business head for payments, consumer and commercial lending, and InsurTech. Smriti, thanks for joining the panel. Can you please tell us about your experience on the Student Council and indeed over your 2 years and how it shaped you into the leader you are today?
Thank you so much for the introduction, Ronald. So, guys, I just wanted to share with you the amazing experience that I had over the 2 years at IIMK. When I joined IIMK, the one thing that everybody told me was that it is going to be a great learning experience. You're going to learn a lot of new subjects. But what I really learned a lot from IIMK was the 2 years of experience being in the Students' Council. In your corporate life, one of the most important things that you need to do is stakeholder management. And what the experience in Students' Council actually taught me was that how do you influence everything right from the management of the college to your own peers to do the right thing and to contribute more to the college. So one of the beautiful things about IIMK was that it is heavily student run, right from everything, right from the admissions process design to the placements to the industry interaction. Everything is student run, and we have a huge autonomy that the management provides for us to actually shape the future of the college. So that was a great learning experience for me, Ronald.
Thank you very much, Smriti. That was very insightful and very inspiring. And we'll come back to you over the course of this discussion. Our next panelist is Revant Bate from the class of 2009. Hi, Revant. How are you? Can you hear me?
Hi, Ronald. Yes, I can hear you well.
Great. Welcome. So Revant was on the placement committee for the 2 years that he was on campus. The placement committee is responsible for bringing job opportunities for the whole batch on campus. Revant and team had to do this during the great financial crisis of 2008 to 2010. After IIMK, Revant went on to a career first in investment banking, followed by entrepreneurship with Fasos, also known as Rebel Foods, where he was an entrepreneur in residence, before going on to become a partner with venture capital firm Calorie Capital. He was effectively one of the youngest VC partners in the country. He recently went back into entrepreneurship as the founder and CEO of Mosaic Wellness, a digital-first multi-brand consumer goods company. Revant, we would love to hear about your experience on the placement committee and how it shaped you into the leader you are today.
Thanks for the long intro, Ronald. So I think one of the things that I got a little help early on when I joined IIM Kozhikode was my now co-founder in my current business was a year ahead of me. We had graduated together, and he had gone on to join IIM Ahmedabad. And I sort of called him and asked him, "What do you do when you join an MBA course?" Right? And he sort of told me there are three sets of folks. A set of folks who would spend a lot of time getting through all the lectures, books, and understanding all the theoretical rigor that would come through with an MBA. There's a second set of folks who would just focus on extracurriculars and really getting a different kind of experience. And there is a third thing which is very hard, is to do both. I was quite lazy, and therefore I took the easy way out. Took up the extracurricular piece, and therefore I think I also went a little overboard. Apart from placements committee, I was part of the consulting group. I was part of a committee called Conquest that effectively encouraged students to participate in B-school competitions. And I mean, it just ended up being a great 2 years of creating a lot of 0 to 1 experiences. And what we call as 0 to 1 is more entrepreneurial specific, where you have an idea and you sort of create something out of it. And fundamentally, because we were just 10 years young, it was not that placements was very easy. I think our alumni base was decent then, but not as deep as it is now. And a bunch of, Calicut was not the most reachable location. So the amount of effort that we had to put in back then was tremendous. But that really, really helped me understand that that is what I love doing, and gave me a definite leg up in trying to do a lot of 0 to 1 aspects later. And I think my entire interest in entrepreneurship sort of was, came through because of the kind of experience that I had in those 2 years.
Thank you, Revant, for that detailed and very inspirational account. We'll come back to you again over the course of the discussion. I'd like one more of our alumni to share their experience on campus, the rich student life that they had. and that is Prakriti Sharma from the class of 2015. Prakriti, you're on mute right now, so you just have to take yourself off mute. But welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me, Ronald.
Great, great. So like Smriti, Prakriti was also on the Students' Council for her 2 years on campus from 2013 to 2015, and also won the gold medal for all-round performance. Congratulations. Prakriti also found the time to dabble in theater and be on the swimming and basketball teams of IIM Kozhikode in Sangram, which I mentioned earlier is a fiercely contested sports meet between the 4 IIMs of South India. Since IIMK, Prakriti has gone on to a very exciting career with Unilever, where she is a senior area sales and customer manager in Haryana. Prakriti, we would love to also hear about your student life experience, how you juggled all of these different things, and how it shaped you into the leader you are today.
Thank you, Ronald. My experience at IIMK was not very different from how Smriti described it. Of course, Students' Council being a big, big part of it. And the kind of autonomy that we got in terms of getting things done, getting what we wanted, resources that we wanted, we got access to the student budget that we decided among students how to allocate it between the committees, and managing stakeholders, as Smriti said, was a big, big learning. Aside from that, aside from the very busy life with the Students' Council, I also managed to make time for other activities that are on board on campus, whether that's the fiercely contested Sangram or theatrics. And that, I think, really helped me understand how much we can really, stretch ourselves, and there is no limit to what we can do if we really want to make use of the resources available to us. So I continue to, in my current life, engage in multiple activities because we are looking at holistic learning and not just academic learning, but also really understanding who we are as people. And I think everybody who's gone to Kozhikode can definitely say that the campus helped them find themselves and find their path in what they wanted to achieve in their life.
Thanks, Prakriti. Thank you for that detail, and we'll come back to you over the course of the webinar. These are just a few of the examples of the incredibly entrepreneurial things that people have done on campus. We spoke about Sangram, which is the Inter-IIM sports meet. That was actually started by one of my classmates in 2004. He was also on the student council. So he partnered with the student council member from IIM Bangalore and started this sports meet, one edition being in Bangalore and one edition being in Kozhikode. 15 years later, our batch sponsored the jerseys for the full contingent of 200 students from IIMK that went into Sangram. And IIM Kozhikode won Sangram against the other 3 IIMs from South India last year. And I think around 15 of my classmates called the various captains of the Sangram team to congratulate them and also shared their memories from the first Sangram. So life had come full circle for a lot of us. There are many other wonderful examples of student entrepreneurship. More recently, during this COVID crisis, a couple of students on campus had worked on an initiative called COVID FYI, which is an information sharing platform on COVID. Another bunch of students had come together with their talent for art and auctioned a bunch of paintings to raise funding for COVID relief. And these are just a few of the many, many examples. My own experience was on the placement committee for 2 years. It was an intense experience, but it taught me 3 very important things. One is the importance of hustle and to be crazy ambitious to really move the needle on something. The second is the power and importance of relationships and your network. And the third very important thing when you're in a position of responsibility, ethics and trust are non-negotiable. And those are 3 of the lessons that I learned from my own experience on the placement committee. So we gave a little bit of color on the student experience and the leadership experiences that many of us have had. Another big part of IIMK's campus culture is competitions off campus. International and national competitions. And IIMK has had an incredible track record in winning both national and international competitions. So I wanted to bring in our next panelist, who is Shruti Kandelwal from the class of 2019. Shruti won multiple competitions on campus, including the City Woman Leader Award, and went on to join McKinsey & Company in 2019, where she is a junior associate. Shruti, welcome to the webinar. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ronald, I can hear you. Thank you for having me.
No,
Hi,
thanks so
everyone.
much for your time. Shruti, can you please shed some light on both your experiences with competitions and the culture at IIMK, which inspires so many students to excel at competitions off campus?
Definitely. So, talking about competitions, I feel that to be fair, competitions are taken seriously at almost all B schools in India, but more so in IIMK. And I think it has a lot to do with a very strong culture of excelling in case competitions that gets passed on over batches. So, for example, I remember when we were in our first year, we would see our seniors from the batch of PGP 20 win multiple competitions, not only at the national level, but even international level, right? So I think that got us really excited about the prospect of participating in them. Also, we received immense support and coaching from them every step of the way, starting from how to approach the problems, how to solve, say, for example, marketing cases, how to handle Q&As, how to structure your problem, how to, the best practices for presentations, etc. And I believe even my batch tried to pass on our learnings to our junior batch. And I think a testimony to that is the fact that last year in 2019, IIMK emerged as the most competitive B school in India, and I think that's incredible. Having said that, more often than not, the problem statements in these case competitions are very real, very relevant and interesting, right? Very relevant to at least from the MBA curriculum, right? For example, it could be about launching a new category of product for an FMCG giant or increasing customer engagement for, say, an e-commerce firm, right? So at some point, it becomes less about winning and more about just purely enjoying the whole process of problem solving. And that happens especially if you manage to find the right team, which fortunately for me, I did. And honestly, I feel it's not very difficult to find the right people because the campus is full of amazingly intelligent and creative people who are equally passionate about problem solving. And once you do manage to find the right people, trust me, it becomes a joyride, right? For example, I still cherish all the sleepless nights we spent trying to solve the cases, traveling for the nationals, meeting people from other campuses, hearing out their ideas, then the thrill of going up on stage and presenting your idea and then waiting for the results. I think it all adds a new dimension to your B school life and makes it a very enjoyable experience, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Shruti. Though I never was as successful in any contest on campus, I lived that quite vicariously through you. So thank you so much for that. And we'll bring you back on during the course of the webinar. I have one more alumnus who won a very different type of competition. Welcome, Debanjan Baduri.
Hi, Ronald. Thank you. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
So Debanjan is from the IIMK class of 2007. He is, I first have to introduce him as an incredibly talented musician. He is on YouTube under the name Sanket Banker. He has 1 lakh followers on YouTube. That's the first thing I have to tell you about him. On the professional front, he joined JP Morgan from IIMK, first in investment banking and then private equity. And after a decade, moved into another global private equity fund, the Rohatyn Group. Debanjan, welcome to this webinar. You won a very different competition from Shruti. You won several rounds at Kaun Banega Crorepati while you were at IIMK. Tell us about that and what happened on campus when you came back.
Yeah, so you rekindled. Thanks so much, Ronald. You really rekindled some of the really fond memories from campus. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. So I was sitting at home after quitting my job, waiting to join IIMK, and that's when like they say, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So I started exploring various things I could do, and there's this ad. So I just applied, and while I was doing my first semester, which was very hectic, by the way, but I used to get these calls every now and then for the elimination rounds. So finally, I could crack it, and I was very hush hush about it because I was very apprehensive whether I would be able to kind of make a mark. So I actually got selected, and I took my batchmate. His name was Siddharth, my batchmate, and we flew down to Mumbai for the shoot. And I understand it was also live telecast on campus in the auditorium. So I ended up winning 6.4 lakhs. And when I came back, I threw a party for both our batch and our senior batch. It was just a kind of really a lot of fun that we had. So yeah, thanks for bringing up that experience. Not the usual competitive spirit that we see, but yeah, something which is kind of brews out of an idle mind, I would say.
Thanks so much, Devanjan. I'm sure that party when you came back on campus must have been quite massive. But thank you so much, Devanjan. We'll come back to you over the course of the discussion. That is the end of our first segment on the incredible campus and student experience at IIMK. Our second segment is going to be on the great career opportunities throughout your career that IIMK provides you. And there are 4 points that we will cover in this segment. There is the great campus placements that we have. There's extensive industry interaction, a very strong role of alumni in placements, and the opportunities that you have after you graduate from IIMK through the alumni network. If I had to focus on great campus placements, I know that this is big in the minds of a lot of people who think about about IIMK. It's important for you to know that IIMK has fantastic placements. These are top 5 IIM campus placements with marquee recruiters, the best names across all segments, including consulting, banking, marketing, technology, general management, etc. I mean, just some examples include, the 3 MBB, McKinsey, Bain, BCG. I used to recruit for McKinsey from IIMK, as well as top international and national private equity funds. And we'll give a couple of experiences to get into a bit more color around why these firms choose IIMK and their experience at IIMK. Debanjan, I'm going to bring you back. Debanjan, you work for the international private equity firm, New York-based private equity firm, the Rohatyn Group. TRG recruited in India for the first time for summer placements of this year, and they chose IIMK. Can you tell us more about that entire journey from choosing IIMK to the experience with students, etc.?
Sure. So yes, it was a first time for us. Just not just for us, but even my previous firm, JP Morgan's private equity arm, where I was there for around 10 years. We seldom hired from B schools or fresh graduates. It's a space where it's a very small setup, the private equity space, and we typically end up hiring from experienced candidates laterally with at least 3 to 5 years experience. But this was a first, and we luckily got through, got the approvals, and we reviewed quite a few kind of campuses and their profiles, and we zeroed in on 2 campuses, which is IIMK and another premier B school. And IIMK was kind of having its process earlier, so we flew down. So it was my MD, myself, and an associate. We flew down, and we had a very hectic day-long kind of screening process. We went beyond midnight, and it was really incredible. My MD gave me a feedback that he was really overawed with the level of talent and knowledge and the sheer passion to learn and inquisitiveness. So all those traits which make up a great investor, I think all of those were there. And we ended up hiring both the candidates from IIMK, which was not what we had planned. And we are having a great time with them. We've really got a lot of value from that. So yes, I guess we've got the proof of the pudding. We've seen the kind of quality of students that IIMK churns out, and it's only kind of strengthened our belief in the entire process that IIMK fosters.
Great, thank you, Debanjan, for sharing that experience and also playing a very important role in that entire journey and bringing TRG to campus. So thank you so much. So, I mean, this is just one of many examples, right? I recruited for several years for McKinsey. McKinsey has been recruiting since 2007 from IIMK for its standard junior associate roles. Bain and Company and BCG also recruit from IIMK. And I think it's important when you look at placement reports from various campuses to understand the nuance between some of these things, because sometimes, Bain and Company, which is the front-end recruiting, will come to some campuses like IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Kozhikode, and Bain Capability Center will go to other campuses, which is a different career path altogether. So I think it's important for you to pass that nuance in these placement reports, because they don't tell a complete story all the time. The second important thing in this great career ecosystem is industry interaction. IIMK has extensive industry interaction through not just various industry summits and guest speakers, but also various live projects, extensive alumni interaction, as well as your peer group, which has such diverse industry experience. So, I mean, overall, your industry interaction is great. Another big piece in placements, we've already alluded to it, is the alumni involvement in placements. There is very high alumni involvement in the placement processes of their respective companies, which accounted for 31% of all offers last year. Even during this COVID-19 crisis, when many people lost their summer internships, alumni have supported and provided emergency internships to many of these affected students. So, and it also continues to alumni student mentorship and coaching throughout the 2 years at IIMK. So I gave the example of Debanjan, and all of our alumni on this panel have actually been involved at various points of time with campus placements. I will just give one more example, which is Smriti. Smriti, you've been involved in Flipkart's coming to IIMK and its campus placements at IIMK. Can you tell us a bit more about that and what the experience with IIMK has been?
Yes, Ronald, I have been, in fact, in the last 10 years, I've almost come back to campus about 6 to 7 times, both with ITC and Flipkart for recruitment, right? And in fact, every single time I have taken more students than we came for, right? We would come with a number of 3 or 4 and end up with 5 to 6 students, right? The quality of students has always remained quite good. And we've been able to find students with extremely good core values, right? Good leadership qualities, good ability to learn, ability to thrive in the corporate environment. And as Revant was mentioning, right? The ability to do 0 to 1 is what we were looking for in Flipkart. And we found quite a few good students here over the last 10 years. And one of the most important things I would say, which contributed to this kind of a talent pool, was the alumni involvement, right from all the mentorship sessions that we do. How do you get your CV right to what is it that is needed to crack an interview in a specific field with a specific company, right? Hearing it from someone who is in that organization, right? Getting that kind of alumni involved, I've not actually seen it in a lot of other campuses. That's been a real revelation for me. The other very important aspect as well is our faculty actually realizes the importance of alumni involvement in some of these things. 2010, when I came back for the summer placements for the next batch, right? The director had actually called me in and he was asking me about how can he get alumni involved right from the admissions process to the course curriculum to industry interaction, right? So that we get right from getting the right quality of students to nurturing them in the right way, alumni can be involved, right? So that the end product is industry ready, right? So I think this is something that I've seen which is very, very unique about IIMK. In fact, even this time when I went back to campus, both the faculty and the director had reached out asking me about the same thing, right? How can alumni be involved? And in fact, this year, I think last year we started alumni involvement in the admissions process as well, right? So this entire journey of alumni involvement really is a big success for IIMK placements. I've seen that the number of companies, the quality of companies and the quality of students, right, both have grown multifold over the last few years.
Great. No, thank you for sharing that experience, Smriti, and more importantly, for being such a big part of it, both at ITC and now at Flipkart for many years. Thank you for that. So Prakriti and Shruti have also been involved for HUL and McKinsey, and so has Revant. Revant has been involved across the many years since he's graduated, including coaching candidates for private equity and investment banking interviews in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. So that's how committed he has been to coaching students. Another big part of great career opportunities is it's important for everyone to realize that your campus placement is only your first job from campus over a 30 or 40-year career span. There are incredible career opportunities that come through the very close-knit alumni network of IIM Kozhikode. And Revant is an excellent example of that. Revant, you got great career opportunities through our alumni network. And now as a founder and CEO of a great startup, you are creating opportunities for IIMK alumni. You've hired several. Can you tell us about both of these experiences?
So actually, maybe I was sort of a little lucky in that sense. But when I joined Yes Bank, actually the first job after campus, I sort of after that have made every switch basis an alumni actually recommending or suggesting a particular job to me. So my first switch to Elara, which was a boutique IB, was because one of our alumnus moved there, and he called me over and said, you should come and work for us. And I said, why not? It's not every day that an alumni sort of calls you and gives you an opportunity to work and do something exciting in investment banking, right? And even it's sort of continued a lot post that as well. Even my entry into venture capital was sort of influenced significantly because of alumni as well. And I think it's a very different nuance. So there is one way where you do the work that is given to you. Let's say you come into a B school, you work hard, you get, you are in the top 10 percentile, you have the top 10 ranks, etc. So people know you're good at something. But most of us will not have that opportunity, right? Or even if you're not good at ACADS, how do you sort of create a reputation that you are good at something? And in that sense, I think the hustle, the networking, the ability to sort of influence across this tribe of what we call the IIMK alumni has sort of certainly helped a lot in my case. And over a period of the last 10 years, if I look back and see the amount of help I've received from alumni, it's my turn to pay it forward. You mentioned coaching students at 1 a.m. I think it's not something that is it just comes naturally, because I've seen the kind of help that alumni have provided to my career, and in some ways it's my responsibility to make sure that every individual who's a student or who's an alumni now who I can help, I should sort of have that obligation to take out time for them as well. And therefore, it's no surprise that even when I look at my own firm now, it's not that I'm trying to do some great service to IIM Kozhikode. It's just that it's also easier for me to hire from IIM Kozhikode, because one of the big aspects of recruiting is reference checks. Instead of trying to find out 10 people how good they are through 20 interviews, you can just pick up the phone and ask who's the best person on campus today, and who's the person you need to hire. That's how I ended up hiring 3 alumnus already, and it was all because they have been they have been highly recommended through the alumni network. They are very good at what they do, and I didn't need 5 interviews to find out whether they're good enough or not. Clearly the tribe mentioned that they are the best at what they do, and therefore it was easier to hire as well. So I think there is a big learning there, that as you grow in your career, the lines keep blurring as to who is good and who's not, and references start becoming very, very important. So the fact that you are good at something also has to be acknowledged by third parties, and that's where I think being part of a tribe which sort of sticks together, looks out for each other, definitely helps a lot.
Great. Thank you for that, Revant. While you're still on, we're getting questions online at our email address, which is just below the YouTube video link. One of the questions is on an aspirant who has 2 years of experience, but who wants to get into a finance, investment banking, or private equity role from IIMK. Can you maybe say something about freshers versus people with work experience that want to get into finance careers? Or is there, there's some perception that undergraduate, grades matter disproportionately. Can you maybe give some more color around what, investment banks, private equity firms might look for when they come to campus and search for talent?
So I think this is a myth that finance folks prefer freshers. I think that used to happen earlier, when you used to have a lot of IT heavy work ex folks coming into P schools. Now, unless you have relevant experience, it's not really going to help, right? And therefore, I think this myth got created that freshers are preferred. Maybe that's how shortlisting happened. But today, when I recruited, I remember we had taken a summer internship in 2012 when I was at Elara. We recruited someone. Sorry, I just can't remember the name right now. But she had some prior experience, but it was relevant experience, right? And that experience fundamentally helped us align to work that was done quicker, that was more relevant. And then, of course, she's had a wonderful career in terms of investment banking in the future. So I think bigger question to ask is, do you have relevant experience or not? So if you had relevant experience, then it's always going to help. But if you have not had relevant experience, then that's going to be a problem fundamentally. So it's not freshers versus experience. It's whether, have you done something relevant that someone can look at and say that this person could excel in a role that we have to offer, whether it's finance or marketing or technology to that aspect.
Sure, that makes sense. Over the last 15 years, looking at people on campus, one thing I've also found interesting is that if someone wants to signal that they're interested or good at a particular thing, one good way to do this is obviously the competitions on campus, off campus. If you win a competition at a particular area, obviously, recruiters pay more attention to you. For finance, if you do the CFA, that also is a good signaling tool. So I don't think there's ever any hard and fast rule about fresher versus someone with work experience. I think recruiters look much more at a well-rounded candidate, and there are many indicators of talent. So I wouldn't worry. That would be the message.
Just to come back, I
yeah.
remember, and this is a very, very relevant. Actually, this goes back to the question of alumni involvement. So Manvi was the person who had interned at Elara, and she had relevant experience because she had worked previously in UBS as an analyst post her undergrad. And we got her in as an intern in investment banking, and that really helped her get a finals in Deutsche. Then she went to Barclays, and now she's with CPPIB, which manages $400 billion, one of the largest pension funds globally. So I think it really, really matters on what sort of relevant experience and CV building you have done, even prior to coming into an MBA.
Great. Thank you, Raymond. Thanks for that. That wraps up our segment on great career opportunities. Our next segment is going to be the third reason why IIM Kozhikode is special, which is academic innovation and exceptional faculty. IIM Kozhikode was the first IIM to introduce a distance learning program in 2002, which has now evolved into the executive MBA. It also launched a satellite campus in Kochi, which hosts a variant of the executive MBA for the Kochi cohort, as well as various management development program and faculty development programs. It is the first IIM to launch a PhD for working executives. It's also been very innovative in the full-time programs it's launched. It has launched 2 new 2-year MBAs in finance and the second one in liberal studies and management. And it's also launched last year a 1-year MBA in business leadership. So it's a great bunch of innovative programs that one has choice of. The other important thing about IIMK is its exceptional faculty. We have a visionary director in Professor Debashish Chatterjee, and I really encourage you to watch his video on this channel. It's called The Future of IIM Kozhikode. It is such an inspirational video, and I really encourage you to watch it. We also have an exceptional faculty pool. There are 85 plus full-time resident faculty with a rich variety of industry and global experience who all focus on a combination of teaching, research, and management executive education. The target faculty mix is 70% regular faculty who live on campus and 30% adjunct or visiting faculty from outside campus. And we also have a regular flow of faculty from leading foreign institutions. The faculty have touched all of us in very important ways. And I wanted to come and give a few examples from some of our alumni on this panel. I'm going to bring back Revant. Revant, I wanted to know, no problem. Revant, you took a course by Professor Sunil Handa, who is a guest lecturer from IIM Ahmedabad, on a very popular course on entrepreneurship. Can you tell us more about that course and the impact it had on you, as well as many other alumni whose life that changed?
I think it had a lot more impact on other alumni. I can give you one example. Rajesh, who's from the batch of 2007, actually left his job the next day after attending this lecture, which is just, I mean, I took a couple of years to leave my job and start out, but Rajesh did it right the next day. Of course, he had a different experience. It was, I think, it's just phenomenal, the kind of teachings that you can get sometimes in a B school. And as I said, I was not big on academics. I don't think I read a single lecture in the second year. So I can't tell you about the faculty who taught normal subjects. I think course on entrepreneurship was at least something that was far more interesting than I don't know, futures and options, and I don't know what all was taught in those 2 years. But I can't take that out of my mind. I remember Rajesh actually attended the course and then went back to his room to just discuss his business idea, and Professor Handa liked it so much. He said, "Here's a check," and he asked, "What's the reason as to why you're not starting out?" They said, "We have an education loan." And so he wrote out a check and said, "Take this check, bank it tomorrow, leave your jobs and start this." And Rajesh had the obvious question as to, "But what if we can't repay you?" He said, "If you succeed in the business, then you repay me. If you don't, it's okay, right? At least I have pushed you in a certain direction. I'll feel happy about that." And the rest is history, right? They have a business which does more than 100 crores in revenue. I think one of the most successful entrepreneurs from IIM Kozhikode. And it's just phenomenal when you hear these kind of experiences. I mean, our lectures were also great. And I remember a couple of folks from my batch also immediately started out from campus, didn't just appear for placements. But some of those teachings are transformational and very unorthodox, but I think transformational for sure.
Great. No, thank you for that. And I've heard Rajesh's story, and it gives me goosebumps every time. So thanks for sharing it with the wider audience. We'll have one more example of a course that has been very influential on one of our alumni, and that's from Debanjan. Debanjan, with a storied career in finance, I would have expected that you would have said that there was a particular finance course, which, I mean, they were all great, but it was actually a non-finance course, which was your most memorable course when we spoke recently. Can you shed more light?
That's true. So there were a lot of finance courses which I was fairly interested in because I came from an IT and engineering background. So finance was like, IIMK was the catalyst for me to move towards finance. So it helped me a lot. But if I look back 15 years and I think about one course that comes top of my mind, it was a course called Discovering Self. It was led by Professor Jayvelu. And it was a very off-the-shelf, off-the-cuff kind of a course where we were all kind of put into a room, like some 12, 15 of us. And we were just kind of introspecting our lives and what are the major events in our lives and what drives us. And we also went to a kind of a resort in the hills in the Nilgiris for, I think, 5 days. We stayed in tents and all about self-discovery. And what I got out of it, and we had to actually write something like a biography out of that. And a lot of things came out. And I really got connected to my passion, which was always music, but got my roots even more grounded and my kind of connect even more kind of stronger with the course. And a lot of blind spots came out. So I figured out a lot of things which I didn't know about myself, which others could easily see in me, but I couldn't see. So a lot of strengths which came out, a lot of areas of improvement that came out, a lot of things which was kind of holding me back. So yeah, it was a big revelation, and that's what comes top of my mind.
Thank you, Debanjan, so much for sharing that experience. So, I mean, those are just a couple of the examples. Actually, all of our alumni have examples, and so do I. But just moving on in the interest of time, another very important part of IIMK's curriculum is that it's very contemporary and it's very innovative and constantly refreshed. Faculty come to Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi to meet with alumni and get their feedback on the past courses and potential new course ideas. We've had these workshops, every couple of years with faculty coming and getting alumni feedback. And what's happened is that if you look at the curriculum now, it's incredibly innovative. A lot of these new programs have an immersive leadership track. There's a rural and international immersion. There are cutting-edge electives like data analytics using R, and obviously others. And there's always been a very popular course on poker, which has led to the big poker culture on campus, which we'll come back to a bit later when we talk about the annual alumni meet. There's also been a recent introduction of an opportunity to design your own research project as a student to visualize solutions to potential bottlenecks. So that's on the contemporary innovative curriculum. Another very important part of IIMK's experience is the social impact. There's a very strong focus on social impact. There's a mandatory and very popular first-year course called Social Transformation in India. And there is a second-year social development project with an external client. And there are many examples online and also on YouTube of some of these social development projects. Many of our alumni credit social transformation in India as a course that changes their worldview. It is taught by a professor called A.F. Matthew. And I'm going to ask Prakriti if she can share her experience with this course.
So yes, of course. This was a wonderful course that you wouldn't expect to come across in a B school, firstly, and really learning about the social setup of the country, how the very real issues plague us, and that we, in our capitalistic agenda, and of course in our mind to make more money, be more successful, somehow sidetrack these issues. But Professor Matthew just really brought it at the very forefront for us. And this course was so popular that people would make time to attend his classes even if they weren't enrolled in that particular course. And he would do movie screenings as a medium to communicate and better help students better understand the concepts that he was trying to speak about. And you would have an have a full audience there in the auditorium with bated breaths and with full attention for the 2 hours that he would screen those movies and speak about his thoughts. And what it really did was help people have an open mind to different points of view, to different life perspectives and the very real challenges that people of our country and as well as globally people face. So it was a beautiful course, which I think every student who's graduated from Kozhikode is definitely deeply going to keep in their hearts forever.
No, thank you so much, Prakriti. And I've heard the same from everyone who has taken that course. I was taught by a professor called A.R. Vasavi, who also had a similar impact that fundamentally shaped my view on India and its society and how lucky all of us are to be at an IIM and the privilege that we have. So it changes our worldview in a very powerful way. Thank you for sharing that. Another important part of the curriculum is the second year social development project, where through the course of your entire second year, you work with a real client in Kozhikode or in Kerala to drive some impact. I worked in 2004, 2005 with P.T. Usha, India's legendary athlete, a group of my classmates, on her vision to set up a school for athletes, disadvantaged girls, to become world-class athletes. And it was such a fulfilling project. Professor Saji Gopinath had introduced us, and previous and future generations of students who did the same project. At the end of our project, we went to P.T. Usha's house, and we spent an entire evening with her. Her entire living room is full of these trophies and medals. You have to kind of struggle to find space to sit. But it was such an inspirational experience at the end of a social development project. I have so many other stories from my classmates and subsequent generations, a real impact and giving back to society while you're a student at IIMK. So that wraps up our third reason why IIMK is special. It has incredible program innovation and exceptional faculty. We will now move to the fourth reason, which is the very deep entrepreneurship ecosystem that IIMK has. It has a leading on-campus incubator. It is an entrepreneurship ecosystem leader among IIMs and IITs. It has the first ever alumni VC fund. It has a powerful alumni and entrepreneur network. It has student fellowships and a great student startup fair called Startosphere. So I'm going to bring in Revant because you've been intimately involved with a lot of these. Revant, can you tell us more about IIMK Live and how it's made IIMK an ecosystem leader in terms of entrepreneurship?
Sure. I think very interesting piece that was started by the institute, where essentially they wanted to build an accelerator and nurture the entire entrepreneurial ecosystem on the campus, as well as within the state of Kerala, and I think the vision is to sort of go much more beyond that. Start small and then you grow it bigger, and I think it's had a very, very good start. Overall, significant amount of assistance coming in from the students who are interested in entrepreneurship. So we have a very active entrepreneurship cell that works very closely with IIMK Live. The entire Kerala government that sort of has significant, we have a Kerala startup mission where one of our ex-faculty is the CEO today. So I think the culture of entrepreneurship has sort of been on the top, on the mind of the director as well as the institute for the last 5 or so years. And I think IIMK Live is the epitome of their thoughts and bringing alive in some ways that sort of culture. And I think as an accelerator, their assistance in providing startup funding, the kind of sessions that they get, like Hari Menon, who's the CEO of Big Basket, is on the board. He spends a lot of time with the companies. So I think it's a very good thing. Hopefully, I'll see a lot more students coming up and starting out from campus itself, because that's one thing that still remains to be seen. I think the education loan worry continues to plague most to-be entrepreneurs.
No, fair. And we'll come to that when we talk about the fellowships. Revant, you played a central role in setting up the IIMK Alumni VC Fund, the first of its kind alumni VC fund in India. Can you tell us a little bit about it, and who are the people involved, and some of the deals you guys have struck?
So I think about 12-15 months back, we realized that we had a lot of alumni in startups who were entrepreneurs themselves, and a lot of alumni in venture capital and private equity as well. I think that sort of was a big change that we saw today versus where we were, say, 5 years back. And the idea was to sort of build a smaller ecosystem of IIMK alumni who were in startups or entrepreneurs or in VC to help the entire entrepreneurship ecosystem itself within IIMK and even outside. And we wanted a platform for that. And what better platform than to maybe have an institutional sort of fund where we can back the next gen entrepreneurs. Hopefully, we'll find the next Flipkart soon and give a lot of returns to IIMK alumni. So all the investors in the fund are IIMK alumni only. It's only for IIMK alumni. And the folks who are sort of involved in the fund are various folks who are involved in managing either public investments. Harish is a senior fund manager with Kotak. He manages some 20,000 crores for Kotak. So this is child's play for him, but at least private investment is something he's not done before. So he's there to learn and share his experience from public investments. And it's sort of a platform where, we are trying to do something for everything. Entrepreneurs get money. They can leverage the IIM Kozhikode alumni network. Our alumni have access to sort of funding startups and make decent returns from there. And I think for the folks who are managing it, even though there's no monetary benefit, the reason they spend time is the learning, right? I get to learn from Harish, who's managing public investments. Harish learns a little bit about private. We have Harman, who's a managing director at Multiples, one of the largest private equity funds in the country, Nilay at Samara, and a bunch of these folks. And I think it's the learning osmosis that really, really helps all of us become better individuals, because, after a while, you can only learn so much from your own job. You need to learn from others as much as possible.
Sure. No, makes sense. And congratulations. I mean, it's a real pride for all of us alumni, what you guys have built at the Alumni Fund. And let's hope that, the COVID-19 crisis doesn't hit too many of those investments. But obviously, there's a longer lifetime to that. Revant, you talked about students, right? And what I think is incredibly exciting is also the opportunity for students to at least start thinking about some ideas, right? As well as to even organize the huge entrepreneurship summit on campus, where they have the opportunity to build their networks, right? With other alumni, with alumni entrepreneurs, with investors, etc. Can you tell us about both the student entrepreneurship fellowships as well as Stratosphere?
Sure. I think, as I said, the entrepreneurship cell is quite active on campus, and I think it's the culture is sort of growing. So they organize Stratosphere, which is essentially to bring out, get a lot more companies in the startup ecosystem to sort of engage with the students on campus, get a lot of venture capitalists and large angel investors to come in as well. Again, it's to foster that a cycle of learning. What's the most exciting for me is to see our entrepreneurs, IIMK alumni who started companies, who are there in various startups, sort of engage not only for summer placements or finals, but also live projects. Look at fundamentally looking at doing a lot more 0 to 1 learning for students on campus as well. And on the other end, someone like the IIMK Alumni Fund sort of opening up fellowships for students to sort of become VC analysts and understand what it takes to build a career in VC and decide early on which side of the field you want to be on, because being in venture capital, private equity is more like being a coach, invest and help the entrepreneur, and being in entrepreneurship is more like the player, like you're on the field taking decisions day in, day out. And some of these nuances are best understood early on in your career, because it's difficult to sort of pivot to a career in each of them a lot later. I was sort of very lucky to get into venture capital, even though you called me the youngest. I was pretty old when I got into venture capital, and that's pretty rare, unless you make a lot of money and start your own fund, which hopefully soon one day I will. But otherwise, I think it's best that these things are learned early, and that's where a lot of these initiatives are really helpful.
Great. No, thank you, Revant, for telling us about the very deep entrepreneurship ecosystem at IIMK. I encourage all our viewers to also check out the entrepreneur interview series on this channel, which was conducted entirely by student members of the student-led entrepreneurship cell on campus. There are around 10 interviews with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, including Revant, including Rajesh, who you mentioned, but also people from the class of 1999, like Vinay Mishra, who runs India's biggest short film platform. So please do check them out. Also, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the IIM Kozhikode alumni channel by clicking subscribe below this video. You will get a regular feed of great content from us going forward. So that wraps up our segment on IIMK's deep entrepreneurship ecosystem. The next segment that we're going to do is on the fifth reason why IIM Kozhikode is special, which is as India's leading diversity and inclusion leader. There's a kind of unrivaled reputation here in terms of student body diversity, diversity on the board, LGBTQIA plus awareness, as well as our women's alumni network. So, I mean, IIM Kozhikode was the first IIM to have more than 50% women in a batch. Its 2-year MBA program. This was in 2013. It was the first IIM to have an additional batch for exceptional women. It has had a very strong focus on attracting a broad diversity of gender, academic, professional, and social backgrounds, as well as national level excellence in various fields. I mentioned that we were the first IIM to have more than 50% women in a batch. Prakriti, you were from that batch of that famous batch of they started in 2013, the class of 2015 that had a majority of women students. How was that experience for you?
I would say that it was a normal experience in terms of that is how life is supposed to be, that you have equal representation from both the genders and have acceptance for other genders, how people may choose to define themselves, and diversity in general in terms of backgrounds. How it was different is I could say that the campus was certainly more vibrant. You had a lot of different perspectives coming in. And as a manager, once you've moved on away from the MBA or academic sphere, the worst thing that can happen to you is that you're out in the world and suddenly you find yourself with a unidimensional perspective of how work should be done, any kind of work. And having an equal representation of both the genders allowed for a free flowing of thought, ideas, for all of them, and even not just speaking for the women on campus, but also speaking for the men on campus, that it's not just about the women getting an opportunity to present their ideas and thoughts, but it's also about the men learning and understanding a different perspective and also gaining and growing from that as well to become into better managers and individuals in life. So it was a very great experience, and I wouldn't call it different. I would call it the new normal.
Great. No, thank you for that, Prakriti. And you're completely true in that it's become the new normal. After your batch, all the other IIMs, including the older IIMs, the diversity ratio has increased. So IIMK has set a very, very powerful precedent. It's great. It's very positive, and it's wonderful that that's the new normal. The interesting thing is that what's fascinating for me is that Smriti, a few years before that, played a key role in this, doing the groundwork, because she had worked with the director, Professor Debashish Chatterjee, to think about how to increase diversity while maintaining merit. Smriti, can you talk a bit about that experience? And it's incredible because life has come full circle. You've met someone from that batch now that you laid the groundwork for. Smriti, you're on mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were 8 women in a batch of 260 in my batch, right? And I think the previous batches were much lesser than that as well. So that is when actually Professor Debashish Chatterjee became the director in my second year. And when he came in, he was looking at some of these things. And because I was in the Students' Council, he called me and he asked me, what do we do? How do we get this to a better ratio over multiple years? How should the admissions process be like? Should we look at a different curriculum set, a different program structure perhaps, right? So think of all the aspects and come back with a proposal is what he said, right? And that's how the 2013 batch, or 2013 to 15, right? 53% women. I don't think I even imagined that we would be able to breach the 50% barrier in just 3 years after that, right, Ron? But see, one of the most important things about diversity is that as students, we don't realize the importance or the gravity of what you're doing. Even when I was doing that, I really did not realize why it matters so much, right? In fact, after 10 years or maybe 2 years ago is when I started realizing that diversity is a very important aspect, and which is the reason why IIMK's placements have also become better over the last few years, compared to a lot of other schools, because that is the place where you get a diverse talent set, right? And to give you an example as to why diversity is important for the audience, right? This instance is what made me realize that it is so important. We were talking about an artificial intelligence company, and apparently in all their tests, all their launches, it was a complete success. But when they took it to market, the product was a failure. And the reason for that was it was tested on all employees, and the artificial intelligence facial recognition software did not work on half the population, which is women, right? That's when it struck me as to how important diversity is in a workplace, to have representation of your customers, and which are those pools of institutions which can actually give you that diverse set of students to recruit from. And IIMK sort of stands out there quite a bit.
No, thank you for that, Smriti, and it's great to hear that. And you're completely right about this being very important to recruiters too, because all recruiters, I mean, even when I was at McKinsey and Company, diversity is incredibly important, right? It enriches the thinking in our companies. There is statistical research that show that companies perform better, right? It is not about doing anyone a favor. Diversity helps improve performance of companies, and it's great that IIMK has been a leader in that space and has got that recognition, and that a whole bunch of recruiters, Flipkart, McKinsey, all the banks, etc. IIMK is top of mind when it comes, as a diverse pool of talent. So thank you for that, Smriti, and thank you for the groundwork you did many years ago with Professor Debashish Chatterjee. A couple of other subtopics on diversity. IIM Kozhikode has 6 women on its board of governors, which is the highest among all IIMs. 3 of them are women alumni. We are also one of the first 2 IIMs to have a student club called Umeed, which is focused on building awareness of LGBTQIA+ issues and making campus a safe space for LGBTQIA+ students. And this is incredibly important, that everyone feels comfortable on campus, regardless of their sexual preference or their gender or their background. It's incredibly important. And Umeed creates that for our LGBTQIA+ students. Off campus, we have a very strong women's alumni network, which has regular meets across cities, informal as well as formal sessions with partners from executive search firms, coaching them on how to build their careers. Every year, a bunch of women alumni also come down to campus for a Women's Day function on campus. The Women's Alumni Network of IIMK has also partnered with the Star in Me, which is a career enhancement platform for women, to launch the first ever Pan-IIM What IIM Women Want survey, which got widespread coverage across 30 international and national publications. You can check out the video on this channel, which has results of that survey. The video is called What IIM Women Want. That wraps up this segment on why IIMK is the diversity and inclusion leader amongst all campuses in India. The sixth reason why IIMK is special is because we have the most engaged alumni network. There may be older campuses, but IIMK has indisputably the most engaged alumni network. The IIM Kozhikode Alumni Association has a robust network of 14 global chapters, 8 in India and 6 abroad, which have extensive year-round online and offline engagement, which enable networking around shared interests and driving social impact, including on COVID-19, where the Alumni Association worked with volunteers to raise around 27 lakhs of donations and contributions from our alumni, which have gone to a whole bunch of different causes around India. Similarly, with the Kerala floods, our alumni donated, and the Alumni Association coordinated that contribution to various needy parties. We also have extensive alumni student engagement opportunities. So if you're a student on campus, you get to meet alumni around the year. At the very large on-campus annual alumni meet called Nostalgia. You need to see the video, the post-event video on this channel. It's incredible. Nostalgia includes an alumni student buddy program. It has networking sessions. It has the largest poker event on any Indian campus. It has a popular talent show for alumni and students. We talked about student entrepreneurship earlier, and a lot of this is pure student entrepreneurship. IIMK's Got Talent which has now become a big talent show, and we'll have a virtual edition next weekend. Was started by a student called Moniker a couple of years back with her team. They brought this to life, getting a whole bunch of alumni, including Debanjan, to perform on campus at IIMK's Got Talent. Similarly, another student called Nashim created what is the biggest poker event in India on any Indian campus in terms of footfall as well as sponsorship. It's called Poker Mania. Again, there's a video of that on this channel. The students who are involved with season 1 and season 2 of IIMK's Got Talent, Monica and Pooja, are now producing the virtual edition next weekend. So some really incredible stories of entrepreneurship, even when it comes to alumni engagement. There's also a regular alumni clinic program for one-to-one student mentorship. Basically, alumni go down to campus and mentor students. Students also get to participate in the annual alumni meet Sangam in each city. They also get mentorship during their summer internships. Debanjan, I want to call on you because you have experienced every single one of these that I've mentioned. You have come to Nostalgia, you've sang there, you subsequently went back and recorded a video on campus for one of your songs. You've performed at Sangam in Calcutta. You've come for many of our alumni meets. Tell us, what keeps you coming for these alumni meets, and what has your experience been?
Yeah, so we heard from everyone on the kind of engagement that we have among the alumni and the kind of networking and the knowledge sessions that we have, and that's all incredible. But what I feel is our alumni is a lot of fun. And as you mentioned, there's so many events that happen, be it poker, be it IIMK's Got Talent, where I got to perform a couple of years ago. And I'm also performing next week. So there's a lot of kind of camaraderie and fun element to it, a lot of parties, and we have a lot of fun among the alumnus community. In fact, when I interact with some of my colleagues who are from other premier B schools, I get to see that probably we are kind of coming up trumps in terms of how we are engaging with the community compared to how their communities are engaging. So that's a great kind of fillip. So a recent one that I want to kind of make reference to is we made a campus anthem recently. So there's another alumnus of us from the batch of 2012, Sajal Kumar. He's a professional lyricist. he wrote the lyrics, some incredible lines that he wrote, and we put it to music, and I sang it, and we are going to release it fairly soon as the lockdown is over, hopefully. And also the fact that there's just so much happening, and we are always on our toes to think about, come up with ideas as to how we can make it more fun, more interactive, kind of get people, apart from all the knowledge and gyan, and we have loads of those. Actually, I've attended several of those which were not mine, kind of where I had to kind of learn up, like things like blockchain, things like design thinking by Jimmy. So there were so many sessions which I was like totally new to, and I had a lot to kind of learn from. But yeah, I think it's all a lot about fun and party as well. Yeah.
No, thank you for that, Debanjan. And in fact, something fun that comes to my mind is that my classmate Samir Seth, who runs the Bombay Canteen, which is one of India's top restaurants, he once did a dinner for various senior alumni, including yourself and a couple of our old faculty. And he made a special menu just for IIMK, which had special dishes with named after his favorite places in Calicut, including a cocktail menu, which had again names of some of his favorite places in Calicut, and you went there and you entertained everyone afterwards by singing afterwards. So
yes, and it's the top ranked restaurant in Mumbai.
That's correct. That's correct, and we're very proud of it.
So, it was an amazing experience. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I call that a bucket list experience that we have as IIMK alumni, right? So it's a unique experience, and it's very special. Thank you for that, Debanjan. I'll just close by saying that there's also alumni involvement on the Institute's Board of Governors. We have 4 alumni on the Institute's board, but there's also alumni engagement with the Institute on multiple other fronts, including involvement during the admissions process, as Smriti mentioned, collaboration with faculty and courses and research, as well as obviously placements that I mentioned earlier. So that is the end of our segment on IIMK having the most engaged alumni. The last segment that we have, which is on the 7th reason why IIM Kozhikode is special, is on the international exposure and thought leadership across both the international exchange program, but the big focus that IIMK has on globalizing Indian thought. So, in terms of the international exchange program, we have exchange programs with 37 universities across 22 countries. I think every year around anywhere from 90 to 100 students on campus get the opportunity to go abroad on exchange. International students also from these campuses spend a semester at IIM Kozhikode, enabling cross-cultural learning and networking for the students who are on campus too. I want to, bring on Shruti, because Shruti was one of the many students and many of our alumni who went on exchange. Shruti, can you tell us about your experience at the IIM Strasbourg Business School in France, which is one of the top 100 schools in the FT ranking? What was your experience? How difficult is it for a student to get to go for the exchange program? And when you look back now, what were your key learnings?
Sure, Ronald, thank you. So, to be very honest, I was in 2 minds while trying to decide whether or not to go for Forex. But looking back, I don't think I would have chosen otherwise. And I say that for multiple reasons, 2 of which I'm going to highlight here today. So first one would be getting a chance to get exposed to a very new academic context, right? Because, for example, in IIM Strasbourg, we had a course on B2B sales, which was taught by the director of B2B sales at Orange, France, which is a huge telecom giant in Europe, right? And the course on product management, I remember, was taught by a product manager himself who had by then already launched 4 product-based startups. And the course was all about him sharing his experiences of failures and successes. And that was the curriculum of the course. Now, this kind of a context is very rare in India, right? So I think it was a very unique learning experience from that perspective. It helped us kind of get a flavor of a foreign MBA, if I may. Then along with that, this is also a good chance to expand your network, if that excites you. Then the second would be the opportunity to travel and explore other countries and cultures. Now, universities in Europe especially are not as hectic or demanding as Indian universities, especially B schools. So it just frees up some time for you to go around places, travel, explore, etc. Right? That in that process, you meet new people, you learn to live on your own and figure out small and big things by yourself. So I think it's a very fun experience. It's very interesting, but at the same time, it's very humbling to get to know a world that's beyond the one you're used to living in. So yeah, and coming to how difficult it is. So as you rightly mentioned, about 1/3 of the batch gets to go on Forex, and it's based on, the allotment is based on CGPA. But I would suggest that's something to worry about, because once you come on campus, you have enough time. You have 4 terms to figure out whether you want to go, where do you want to go, and how do you want to manage your academics around it. So yeah, it's fairly sorted that way.
So thank you for that, Shruti. I'm very envious
you.
of you that you got to go for student exchange. Also, IIMK has a bunch of international partnerships. Over the last 2 decades, IIM Kozhikode has established several partnerships with leading universities, including Yale and Stanford, for faculty development, executive education, leadership programs, and joint research. And there are more in the pipeline. As I mentioned earlier, a big focus of IIMK has been on globalizing Indian thought. What does that mean? That means that a lot of Indian business schools have used foreign case studies or foreign content. What IIM Kozhikode is trying to be at the forefront of is curating the best of Indian thought leadership and taking that abroad. So we had our first ever Globalizing Indian Thought Summit last year, which Prime Minister Modi spoke at, and so did a whole bunch of other leading thinkers from India and abroad. And it's just one part of a very strong program to serve as a global platform for the best Indian thinking. Also, in terms of international accreditation, IIMK has received international accreditation from AMBA in 2011 and is going through the process with the other 2, EQUIS and AACSB accreditation processes, which will then enable IIMK to enter the global rankings in the next year or 2. So expect that in the next year or 2. So that is the end of this segment, and and we will now start with the Q&A, because we have a whole bunch of questions that have come in. And I'm going to bring up all our panelists back onto the screen so that we have all of them. We have a whole bunch of questions, and we'll do our best to answer them where possible. I'm not sure whether we'll have time for all the questions, but let us try and answer some of the most common questions. So a lot of the questions are asking us to compare IIMK versus other institutes, including a lot of non-IIMs. It's important that we don't want to say anything negative about any other campus. We have great respect for all other business schools. We would rather focus on getting you enough information on IIM Kozhikode to make an informed choice through this webinar. That said, I mean, we've spoken before this webinar, and all of us would choose IIMK over any other non-IIM for all the reasons mentioned during this webinar and the fantastic alumni experience we have. I think it's also important to consider the incredible power of the IIM brand as well as the Pan-IIM network. I have lived and worked outside India since 2008, and the strongest brands outside India are the IITs and IIMs. I've also benefited from many Pan-IIM alumni networking opportunities that are simply not there for any non-IIMs. Also, please consider when you look at one business school versus another, or IIMK versus another campus, it's your business school decision is a lifetime decision, right? It's 2 years on campus. Yes, there's a campus placement, which is just one of the many jobs you will have over the course of your career. I have had 4 since IIMK. We encourage you to not just base your decision on, some average salary numbers and some placement reports. Business school is just a starting platform. Many of your opportunities will come through your alumni network, and that's where very strong alumni engagement like IIMK's will make a difference. So I'm sorry that we won't answer, directly any questions on IIMK versus Campus X. We have full respect for all other campuses. But we hope this webinar shows you what makes IIMK special. There's a whole bunch of questions about the various different programs that IIMK has, and which one would you choose if you could rewind in time. There's several fantastic full-time programs now. The 2-year programs are the 2-year the regular full-time master's program, which all of us did. There's now a 2-year master's in finance. There's a 2-year master's in liberal studies and management. And there is a 1-year PGP MBA in business leadership for people who have, I think, 3+ years of experience. So, I mean, this is a fun question, and I'm going to actually ask the entire panel, if you had to rewind in time, which of these would you do now? I'll start with you, Smriti. If you had to rewind in time and you had these programs to choose from, which one would you do and why?
I would obviously choose the liberal studies and management course because I was just going through the curriculum when the course was introduced a few months ago. It's amazing. The design thinking course, the discovering self part, which was already there in the regular course, but still there's more emphasis here. The political science and management course, and I can go on and on, right? Some of these courses are very, very relevant to what you will actually use in your work environment, right? When you're managing people, when you're recruiting, when you're cutting the big deals, right? Social psychology, behavioral aspects of people, right? I'm super excited with the curriculum of that course, in fact.
Great, thank you. Revant, what about you? Which program would you go back and do now? You can say the same program, it's fine.
No, it's not about that. I mean, as I said, I was never too big on ACADS, which was the typical finance or marketing and stuff. Extracurriculars was what interested me a lot more. So I'm not really sure if, I'm given a choice, what would I do? I would choose the course which would give me the highest amount of opportunity to do more extracurricular activities. So I don't know which one of that is now, but I'm sure students can pick it.
That's so funny, Raymond. That's so funny. Okay, Prakriti, how about you? Which program, if you had to go back in time?
At the risk of once again stealing Priti's answer, I would say studies and management. Of course, because of how the course is created. But having said that, I think that even the course that we studied, our at curriculum was extremely holistic, and did give us small extracurriculars and did have a big these aspects of liberal studies, which was SBI or globalization and thought, or discovering self, or very interesting courses, etc. So I think that did give us a good flavor.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prakriti. Debanjan, I'm hoping that you will have a different answer. No pressure.
Yeah, actually, I'm confused. But yeah, I think I would have gone for the 2-year master's in finance. I think I was trying to make a career shift. I was from an engineering IT background, and I wanted to see what finance was all about. And I learned ground up from the institute, and I got into JP Morgan. So yeah, I would have looked for a custom tailor-made kind of course in finance. I would have gone for that one.
No, that makes sense. I think it's a fantastic program, and it'll increase. I think it'll be especially attractive to our finance recruiters, right? All our banking and private equity recruiters. So I think it's a great program. Shruti, how about you?
I think I would still choose the course that I chose, but it would be interesting to have some of the electives mentioned in the liberal studies program curriculum. For example, critical analysis of literature, readings in literature, and design thinking. I think it would be interesting to be able to at least have an option to choose those electives, even in our course. But yeah, I would probably go with the same course.
We're very happy that someone still sticks with the program that all of us did. Because I am going to vote along with Smriti for the 2-year masters in liberal studies and management. I mean, anyone who knows me that would have guessed immediately. I came to IIMK actually from the World Bank. I used to run around villages in Madhya Pradesh working with poor people. So I'm a complete, tree hugger that would have done the liberal studies and management program. Also post IIMK, I mean, I did a lot of stuff that focused on public policy. So this program would have been my dream program at IIMK. But that said, I mean, this, I think while the content of these programs may vary, all the other incredible things that we've highlighted during this webinar remain common across programs. And I think that is the wonderful thing, right? You will still benefit from the great culture on campus, the student-run culture. In fact, I think for the new programs, there's even more opportunity for entrepreneurship, because you can do new things for your programs that may already be there in the established, 2-year PGP program. So I think it's an incredible entrepreneurial opportunity too. There is a few other questions on, whether on IIMK's location, right, and whether that impacts, industry interaction in any way. I think it's very important to bust the myth of IIMK having a location disadvantage. That's a real big myth. Kozhikode or Calicut has an international airport with daily direct flights from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, etc. So from Mumbai, I mean, say someone from a bank or someone from a banking recruiter, trying to recruit, needs to take flights to all the top 5 IIMs: Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Kozhikode, and Lucknow. In fact, just think, I mean, I spent 10 years in Bangalore, and I can't imagine the time taken from Bangalore airport to the IIMB campus, right? So there is no location disadvantage at all that IIMK has. And we have extensive industry interaction year-round, like we mentioned earlier, with visiting industry speakers, alumni clinics, etc., but also the student diversity that provides year-round industry exposure.
I think post-COVID, post-COVID, I think that any perceived locational disadvantage for any campus is going to disappear even more.
That's true. That's a very good point. A lot of recruiting may or will likely go online. So that's a very good intervention. Which actually is a very good segue into our next question, Revant, which is, given the pandemic and the impact on the economy, there's a lot of questions about, should we join business school now, any business school, right, or wait another year? Given the great uncertainty, given that it may impact summer placements, etc. Revant and Smriti, given that you lived through the great financial crisis of 2008, 2010. I'd love you both to weigh in on this, right? Also as recruiters and people in the market. Maybe starting with you, Revant. How should COVID impact anyone's decision on joining business school or waiting for a year and everything associated with that?
So I think, just to give the background, I passed out in 2009, which was the peak of the crisis, and we had the worst ever placements. I think we got rogered because our previous batch had the best ever placements, and I think sort of recovered by 2010 when Smriti passed out, though it recovered even more in the next year. So I actually think reverse. I think this is a great year to start a company or go in and do your MBA for the next 2 years, because when you come out, or once you just have the time to figure out stuff for the next 18 to 24 months. Because once the economy comes back, once there's a lot more positivity, you are then in a good place to really leverage that position, right? So if you're starting out a company, you need about 12 to 18 months to just figure out product market fit, as we call it. It's a good time to do that. If you go in for your MBA today, you will pass out in 2022. I think, there'll be a lot more positivity. I remember 2009 when I passed out, McKinsey didn't hire a single person from any campus. But me, a lowly 2-point-something pointer, bottom 50% of the batch, got a call for a McKinsey interview just because they were desperate to fill positions a year later when the economy came back and they were understaffed, right? So I think when things bounce back, you would be in a good place if you're doing your MBA today.
So thank you for that vote of confidence, Revant. How about you, Smriti? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I concur with Revant, especially having been through the 2009-10 financial crisis, right? I think this time is going to be a little different from the standpoint that businesses and opportunities are going to change over the next 2 years, right? Which industries will go up, which industries will plateau, that remains to be seen over the next 1.5 years. I would say this is the best time to do your education, to complete your education. And I would actually advise, the students to actually stay in touch with the alumni, keep their ears to the ground, right? Understand where how things are emerging over the next 2 years so that they can choose which sectors to go into. some of the traditional sectors may actually plateau quite a bit, right? And digitization and all of that will sort of take over. So they'll have to figure out what should be there. Okay.
Okay, no, thank you both for that. And I think, there's still a great deal of uncertainty that will impact all campuses, right? On when classes will start, the online versus in person, etc. So I think stay tuned with the campus, institute representatives for that information. But I think broadly our sense is that it's still a great time to go to business school. You will graduate 2 years from now, and you will learn a lot. And it's impossible, I think, to time a market. I think you've got a great, if for those of you who have an opportunity to go to IIM Kozhikode now, we would wholeheartedly encourage that. There's a question or a bunch of questions on, we have given, a great detail on the courses and the student extracurricular activities. What is life on campus like? What is Calicut like? Is it fun? Is it, can we get more flavor on life on campus? Perhaps Prakriti, do you want to weigh in on life on campus? And is there fun on campus and in Calicut?
Yes, of course. So Calicut, for anybody who does even a simple Google research can tell you, is that it's a non-vegetarian's paradise. And with amazing seafood options, or generally the local cuisine is fabulous. People of Calicut are extremely, extremely friendly and very easy to interact with. And actually, being a North Indian, and a lot of people have that barrier that how are you going to fare in the south of the country, but there's no language barrier, and people are very open and friendly. There is a lot of sign language, but we're able to communicate perfectly well. When coming to campus is extremely vibrant with a lot of parties that happen with your section folks. There's a Ruburu, which is a section war that happens, and a lot of bonding gets developed after that. We also have batch parties, and the whole gamut of people really interacting with each other informally. And of course, the cultural committee keeps everyone on their toes with like midnight activities and damsharads and factories that are happening late into the night. A heavy day of state work. They are very vibrant and lots of activities on campus.
Great. No, thank you, Prakriti. I think all of us will weigh. I think we had an incredible amount of fun on campus. In fact, some of the fun stuff that we did on campus are some of the happiest memories that all of us have. You're also exposed to Kerala. It's all its beauty, right? I know all of us over the long weekends and during the holidays did some incredibly fun trips. We had an entire busload of our batchmates take a bus down to Kovalam for a crazy weekend. I can't divulge all the details on such a formal call, but I'm sure all of you have also done, incredibly fun trips, on campus. So thanks for that. It's a lot of fun, and Kerala and Calicut is great fun. One question that we have got from Deepa is there anything that you guys wish you had known before or while you were in IIMK, which could have enhanced your experience at IIMK? Any volunteers to take this question? Or I'll cold call. Smriti, I'm going to cold call you.
Okay. I think what I really would have liked knowing while at IIMK, and it goes back to my answer on the liberal studies question, right? That once you get into your corporate life, leadership is not just about knowing marketing, finance, and going through all those specific courses. Of course, it's important to study. Of course, CGPA is important, but it is about broadening your horizons beyond that, right? While I was involved in a lot of extracurriculars, Students' Council happened because I didn't plan for it. It just seemed like something that was fun and something that would broaden my horizons. But if I were to go back and redo some of this, I would have taken a few courses that were a little different, right? Maybe game theory, maybe discovering self, right? Because leadership is actually beyond some of these, right? Meeting people, knowing them, the empathy, and that is what makes you grow as a leader and as a person. And I think, could I have used my time at IMK even better than what I did? Perhaps yes, because I don't think you'll ever get back those 2 years again.
Great, thank you, Smriti. Any other volunteers or anyone else who wants to take the question? Revant, can I call you? Would you do anything differently? You're on mute.
So as I said, I was in the beginning of the call. I don't know how many who are live now were there in the beginning, but I had the luxury of having a friend who was a year ahead of me who told me exactly what to do. And I think I followed that to the T. The only thing I think I would change is what you mentioned, right? There were three things that we learned in the placements committee. One was the hustle, effectively. The second was the power of the relationships, and I think we did that well. The third piece is something that dawned upon me a little late in life, which is transparency and kindness in some way. I think you put it as transparency and ethics. I sort of would put in kindness in a different way, and I think that's something that you learn as you wisen up. That is the only thing I would have sort of wanted to know a little bit earlier, because as Smriti said, if I look at, there were 180 folks in my batch, there were 250 in Smriti's batch, and about 180 in my senior batch. I think I know almost all of them, right? But in some manner and form, I don't really have a strong relationship with all of them, only a few of them. I think if I had known how to build stronger relationship with kindness differently, I think I would love to relive those 2 years.
Thank you, Raymond. Any other volunteers, or we'll move to our next question? There are many very specific questions about placements, and so no surprise. I think that's really on a lot of people's minds. Well, let's try and distill some of them. Anvita asks, how does someone prepare for a career in, say, strategy consulting with the likes of Kinsey, Bain, BCG, and others, right? Is there anything specific? So I think all the consulting firms look for a very well-rounded candidate, right, with very strong achievement. And achievement can be academic achievement. It can be achievement in various other spheres. Great leadership, great entrepreneurship. You can just go to the websites of the consulting firms, and the important thing is that they look for a very well-rounded candidate. So it isn't just about being a batch topper or anything to that effect. It's a very well-rounded candidate and leader, right? And Shruti is someone that we recruited last year, and we similarly were in the recruiting process this year for the batch of 2020, and all the candidates. We found a whole bunch at IIMK with very well-rounded personalities and a rich extracurricular, academic, and in some cases work experience. We always shortlisted both freshers and people with work experience, because even as a fresher, you can show leadership and achievement on campus through your various campus activities, both in undergraduate college as well as at IIMK. So there's an entire universe of opportunities. At least, there's nothing that disqualifies you when it comes to consulting. Similarly, for finance, a whole bunch of people have said that they come from engineering backgrounds and that they want to make the switch into finance. Anything that they should do or can do. Debanjan, perhaps you should take this, right? Because you've recruited for investment banking and private equity at JP Morgan and TRG from IIMK. Any broad sense or broad brush guidance you would give to people who want to get into finance, investment banking, etc.?
I think it's a great platform. It gives you kind of the sphere of mind to use. In the first year, you get exposed to all the courses in finance if you are part of the regular course. And it lets you make up your mind whether you really want to get into finance or if there's something else that you want to clear up. But once you're sure, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I came from an IT background, from an engineering background, and I made a switch into finance, and I got selected on day zero by JP Morgan. So it wasn't easy. So I was part of the Financially Yours Club, the finance club. I was fairly active, doing my bit, fairly kind of had to do a lot of learning because there were other people in the batch who were CAs and all. There was that, like, they kind of built up a very high benchmark for us to live up to. So it was great competitive environment. At the same time, I don't think there are any entry barriers as such. I think with the kind of techniques and the knowledge that gets imparted at the college and with your own drive, it's very easy for anyone to get into one of those big bulge finance names.
Great, thank you, Devanshan. Revant, you also, were recruiting for investment banking, and you've seen many finance candidates, and you've prepped them in the wee hours of the morning for their investment banking and private equity interviews. Any guidance? I mean, anything that people can do, should do?
So I think summers is something that's sometimes a little short of a luck because you don't have time to really build your resume, and whatever you've done before entering your MBA is what sort of really defines you. So it's okay if you have had a technical heavy career, or maybe not something which is finance heavy and you want to get into finance later, right? You have the 2 years while you are at IIM Kozhikode to really build out that entire piece. So the only suggestion would be, don't get too overtly bothered about what happens in summer placements. I think the next 18 months, once you get into any institute, really work hard on building your profile for a particular function if you really want it. And if you want consulting, there is one golden rule. You can see Ronald's name, Ronald Philip. That's his email ID, ronaldphilip@gmail.com. Just write to him, you'll get a consulting role, because he'll train you to get into the best consulting firms.
Totally agree.
So Revant, I'll return the favor sometime. Revant Baadalon. I was going to give Revant email address and phone number and WhatsApp. I'm just pinching myself. Okay. Similarly, a lot of people, want to, get their career, start their career in sales and marketing, and Hindustan Unilever and ITC are the dream companies in that space. Smriti and Prakriti, what does someone need to do, or what are these two great, stalwart companies? What kind of students would they look for, at IIMK for the, to take on as management trainees? Smriti, do you want to go first? Since you were in 2010, you joined ITC.
Yeah. So yes, when I was sitting for my final placements, I really wanted to do sales and marketing, and I did want to get into an FMCG firm. What the kind of people that firms like HUL, ITC, PMG, they look at are real go-getters, real hustlers in Revant's language, right? People who can really understand consumers from the scratch, right? Problem solve, work with large distributors who are their customers, really, right? And build businesses which are at grassroots levels more than anything else, right? Which is all coming from the consumer insights that you draw for your specific business. So they really try to understand if the person sitting in front of you or the student sitting in front of you is able to understand people, is able to think through problems. So it's really just that. Prior experience in sales perhaps could help, but not necessarily.
Great. And how about you, Prakriti? What does Hindustan Unilever look for?
Again, it's who are go-getters, who are enthusiastic and passionate about what their interests are. So you don't have to try and be somebody else, but really find your passions and continue to focus on that. And a lot of the recruitment is also centered at that, how you are able to link to your academic and problem solving. And that's what they're looking for: passionate, real people, telling the truth, going out to get to do, and good way to reflect that in your. Certainly take up leadership in whichever business, which are in line with your interests, that you're able to really your skills.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prakriti. Also, the e-commerce space is just growing explosively, right? And Flipkart is at the forefront of that. Smriti, what does an e-commerce giant like Flipkart look for in attracting top talent from IIMK and other top business schools in India?
So, see, the thing about e-commerce or any of the internet businesses is that there is no precedence to anything that's been done before. The challenges that we see every day is a new challenge. The 9 years that I've been with Flipkart, every day has been a new challenge, right? So the kind of people that we are looking for are people who can solve problems grounds up, right? People who can be really audacious, who can take bold bets, who can challenge anybody around and say that why don't we try this out, right? So it's really those intrinsics that are being looked at rather than anything else. So anybody from any background who have those intrinsics, those are the kind of people that we're looking for.
Great. No, thank you for that, Smriti. We have gone well over time, and I'm conscious of that. So thank you so much for our panel. Thank you all for emailing questions. I mean, we have not been able to address all of them, but keep sending them to the email ID under this YouTube video, and we'll try and get back to as many as possible, or at least put you in touch with some people and some students who can have the conversation with you. We will have one last question. Which is, we will have one last question. And after that, please stay on, because you will get to hear a teaser of the new IIMK anthem that Debanjan and Sajal have put together. So please do stay on for that. The last question we will have is, what is your single favorite memory from campus after all these years? And we'll start. I'll cold call Debanjan first. What is your favorite memory?
Yeah, so mine would be, I think it was more like a routine. I used to, like after finishing all the case studies, I used to go to the night canteen and have that maska bun. And I used to go with the group of friends. I used to go down the hill and come back again. And it used to be mind-boggling. Yeah, that's my best imagery that I get.
Thank you, Debanjan. Prakriti, how about you?
I think my best memory is waking up in the clouds.
Say more.
So
we're on top of hills, so there are clouds.
Exactly. You open your hostel room and there's that beautiful valley that no paid resort can offer you.
That's true. How about you, Revant? What is your favorite memory after all these years?
I mean, it may seem a little odd, but a lot of people keep asking me, a lot of like, why do you take so many risks? Entrepreneurship is tough. And this is one thing that keeps coming back to me. So we were doing summers for Smriti's batch, and actually they don't know this. One of the large FMCG companies of India, their HR had come over, and one of my colleagues in Placecom was over exuberant in removing his bags. And he went to close the door, the dicky door, and it banged on the head of the HR, and his head split open. Okay.
Oh my God.
And he required like 6 stitches. And you were like, we are screwed. This company is never going to recruit from our campus ever. But we actually got them to get 5 offers from the batch, and things were actually kosher. It was an honest mistake. I don't know. Somehow it just stayed with me that a lot of times you'll screw up, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and there are ways to get out of those screw-ups as well.
Okay, my gosh, that is the most gory memory of IIMK that I've ever heard from anybody. to dispel that gory image from us, please help us, Smriti, with something a bit more cheerful, hopefully.
We got 5 offers, Ronald. Come on. It was better than...
It's very obvious that for Revant, the ends justify the means.
No, it was not a threat. A lot of people...
Smriti, please save us. Please save us from that head opening, that's head splitting memory.
This is what happens every time I bring it up. We just laugh ourselves to death.
To death, indeed. I think we're going to put you on mute now, Revant. Or give out your email address and mobile number for people who want to get into finance and venture capital.
I think I will have to go with Prakriti's answer as well, right? It's the campus. The campus is the most beautiful I've been to, right? And I've been to a lot of resorts over the last 10 years, India, abroad, anywhere. And I think in those 2 years, when you are under a lot of pressure, academic stress, placements, what's going to happen, what's not, It really matters. The environment really matters. Being amongst friends, walking up and down that hill, and the Sea Hostel Valley view. I don't know if Prakriti was also in the Sea Hostel, but the Sea Hostel Valley view, it was amazing. I would give anything to go back and relive those 2 years.
True. True.
No, absolutely, Shruti. Thank you so much. Shruti, how about you? What is your favorite memory? I mean, it's I think most fresh for you since it's just been a year.
I wouldn't say after all these years, yeah.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
So,
after all these days.
all these days, yeah. So at the risk of sounding repetitive, but being totally honest, I think my favorite set of memories are just having coffee with my friends near the academic block and just staring at the valley. I think it's just so difficult to not fall in love with the campus. It's so pretty. It's wrapped around with nature. I think hands down, that's the best memory for sure.
Yeah, no.
Just
I'm
picking
going
up
to,
on that.
sorry, go ahead, Prakriti. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that once, again, in the exploring Kerala trips gone around, it's gone to this place, and we were looking over the point, and it was called the viewpoint or something. And you were like, Ari, what is the big deal? We can speak from our hostel.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to be very cliched, and also it's. I mean, for me, it's the Kerala monsoon and experiencing that on the hilltop campus of IIMK. I remember sitting out on my balcony, looking out at the valley, and just being completely drenched in the monsoon to the bone, but just having the widest grin possible. I remember the incredible all-night parties at IIMK, which are open air, and it's starting to rain, the Kerala monsoon, and just getting completely drenched and still dancing, And I mean, when I go back for nostalgia on campus, one of the big highlights is the nostalgia party. There's a nice video of that, which is, kind of PG-13 rated video of that on this channel. But it's really the monsoon and the incredible experience that you have of it at IIMK. It's an incredible experience, and I think all of us have very happy, wonderful memories of that campus. Thank you all for being on this panel. Thank you for sharing your very rich and vivid experiences that make IIMK very special in a way that no placement report or ranking will ever do justice to. And that has been the objective of this webinar, to give much more color and flavor and love and passion to what makes IIM Kozhikode special. So thank you so much to our panel today. And talking of love and passion for IIMK, we will end this webinar with one of those acts of love and passion, which is the new anthem from IIMK. We're going to play that live right now, along with. I'm just going to bring that on stage. I'm just on screen, and hopefully you can all see it. So. Yeah, thank you very much. Please do enjoy this.
कुछ मुकम्मल करके आज कुछ मिराकल करके ऐसी बहारों में हम पेड़ पहाड़ों में हम सपनों की दुनिया की जो फैसले चुने हैं हमने अपनों की दुनिया से जो फासले चुने हैं हमने हाँ फासले चुने हैं हमने यहाँ यूं जिंदगी की सांस चलती है बादलों में क्लास चलती है pricing and segmentation, merger and acquisition, market share and supply chain, some joy and some pain. क्लासेस में माहिर देखो बातें जो की है हमने केसेस की खातिर देखो रातें जो जी है हमने डांस म्यूजिक एंड थिएटर सब चलता है लाइफ की हर बात में हाँ कोई तो या क्लब चलता है Place Combs, Cotton, Calicut, Mass Backwater, Theatre,
self.com,
etc etc बहुत है यार.
work hard, but
party harder.
देखो
अपना ये नारा है, सीढ़ियों पे जिंदगी के राज हमने बांटे हैं, कितने बसे हैं घरों, कोई अब तक तुम्हारा है.
वहाँ जहाँ
बादलों में क्लास चलती है,
जिंदगी की सांस चलती है, कभी बादलों में क्लास चलती है, बादलों में क्लास चलती है.
इतनी सारी चीज, so many, वो दोस्तों का साथ, वो एनसी वाली रात, वो लाइब्रेरी वाली शाम, वो हार्ट फॉट संग्राम. MBA सिर्फ डिग्री नहीं है यार,
It has its own music, it has its own flavor.
and if you didn't hear, you'll not forget forever.
तालीम की तरह, एक ड्रीम की तरह, एक टीम की तरह हम रहते हैं.
कॉलेज से जिसे लोग कैंपस कहते हैं,
क्योंकि यहाँ यूं जिंदगी की सांस चलती है, बादलों में क्लास चलती है, अपनी बादलों में क्लास चलती है, हाँ अपनी बादलों में क्लास